Welcome in, latest episode of that SEC podcast. I'm your host, Michael Bratton. I go by SEC Mike on Twitter. And I'm joined, as always, by my cousin Shane, who goes by Big Orange Vols on the Twitter machine. What's up, yo, Tennessee Hober?
Judging by the colors in your background, I'm going to need a few of these, Mike.
Yeah, that's right, because today on the Fall Camp Preview Series, we're doing the Florida Gators, Shane. I'm so hyped up. Everybody's down on the Gators. Billy Napier's, he done fired yet? Well, we're going to get to it, Shane. I think Florida's in for, well, maybe not a historically good year considering their history, but a much better year, I believe, than many others currently have. So, you ready to talk some Florida Gators football?
Hell yeah, buddy. Let's do it.
All right, real quick, let's hit on last season. Again, we don't have to spend a whole lot of time because we went 5-7, but we did start 5-2, Shane. So the theme of last year, we kind of ran out of gas. We were in a lot of these games in the fourth quarter. Billy Napier has emphatically stated in the spring, summertime, this is a deeper team. This is a more experienced team. This is my most talented team. So I think the hope is that we can go from that team that was 5-2 and finish strong and beat some of these teams that we got to face at the tail end of our season because Shane, Florida has not won a football game. This is wild. Since October 14th. That was their last win. But again, enough about last season. But that's where you get all this negativity about, Napier being out. We got to start hot because we ended so poorly last year.
Yeah, and this is why I've been on their ass so much because I grew up with good Florida, great Florida. And it's just seeing it kind of sit there in the depths of the SEC is just not where they belong. It seems like the SEC plays better when Florida's better. So, yeah, right. I give them a hard time, and you're coming around, man. It's almost I'm almost a little scared because you got to be careful what you wish for. It's like you're like, oh, man, I remember when Florida was great, but you kind of like it when they're not, But then Mike's out here, singing their praises, not even optimistically, like realistically thinking they're going to have a great shot. So I'm hoping at the end of this show, Mike, that you could convince me that this is the year that Florida's back.
All right. Well, hey, it's all on Billy Napier's shoulders. We all know that, Shane. Yeah. And Billy, he's 51-26 as a head coach. Pretty solid. I mean, he was outstanding, Shane, at Louisiana, 40-12. And I believe they were in I think it's the Sun Belt. They were in the Sun Belt.
That's where he got the nickname.
Yeah, okay. See, of course, Sun Belt. He was in the race to win that every year. Finally got it done his final season. And I think it says something about the guy who he's turning down SEC offers. Could have been, Tennessee was in the mix, South Carolina's in the mix. Who knows who else was in the mix to land Billy Napier? But he said, "No, I'm here at Louisiana. I'm gonna finish this deal." That's kind of what he's walking into now at Florida. 11-14 in 2 seasons, 6-10 in the SEC. So, this is a guy who's very methodical, is very thought out. But it has proven it can work at a lower level. And again, I'm going back because this is kind of what I've got to cling to, Shane. This is a year we've been building toward. Yeah. We've got a returning quarterback. We've got an outstanding running back. We've got depth. They had to play a ton of freshmen last year, and it clearly showed. But those freshmen are sophomores now. So the reason for optimism there, I think, just given Billy's track record.
Yeah. It's funny. We've covered 2 other coaches, and with Lane Kiffin, and everybody wants it now with the transfer portal. You need to hit the ground running. And then you got a coach like Drink that's been given time. And then look what happens. You have 11-win season that pops. So is this what – it's kind of funny, Mike, because I go back and forth. You want it now, but then – it's like, does it sustain itself? You look at teams like Georgia, you look at teams that are just predominantly toward the top of the NCAA, and it's like, those teams were built and constructed through the portal. So this Billy Napier team feels like, hey, man, we've got the groundwork in there. Now, what does it look like now that they're older?
Right, and you could say the same thing. Mark Stoops, he's another one. They were eager to run him off kind of early in his tenure. Now he's the second. I believe he's the longest tenured coach in the SEC. So another example. But now, one thing I love that he did, Shady, he kind of blew up his defensive staff because they were awful last year. Let's just call it what it is. But they're bringing in Ron Roberts, co-defensive coordinator, linebackers coach. He was Auburn's defensive coordinator last year. Before that, he was at Baylor a couple of years. He was their defensive coordinator, and that was a Baylor team, you may recall, beat Ole Miss in the Sugar Bowl. And then prior to that, he worked with Billy at Louisiana as his defensive coordinator. So he knows Billy Napier. He knows the current defensive coordinator, Austin Armstrong. He worked, he's a mentor to him. And Dave, he's got a very strong coaching tree, Shane. Dave Aranda worked under him, who won a national championship with LSU. Now he's Baylor's head coach. Pete Golding, who they're in love with down there at Ole Miss, worked under Ron Roberts. Patrick Toney, Billy Napier's first defensive coordinator, worked under Ron Roberts. And, of course, Austin Armstrong, already mentioned him. So there's a lot of familiarity here with Ron Roberts coming in. Where when you got a 30-year-old defensive coordinator, it's good to hire someone that's basically twice his age, got twice the experience to kind of help him scheme up his defense.
That's what it really feels like, Mike. It feels like a crutch for Armstrong here to kind of bridge that gap. Last year he got through into the fire, and at times it looked really good. I remember early in the season we were praising him, and then at the end of the season everybody's shitting on the guy. But I do think that those ups and downs was learning experience. But now that he's got like a true coach, a true assistant, if you will, I know he's labeled a coordinator, and there's the whole system about who's in charge or whatever, but they would have got rid of Armstrong if they didn't like him, if they didn't see something in him. They kept him around because they want to groom him to become one of those great defensive coordinators that you've talked about.
Right, and it's not just Ron Roberts, Shane. So they've added new secondary coach Will Harris. He was with the Chargers last year, NFL experience. Prior to that, Georgia Southern defensive coordinator and defensive backs coach. Washington defensive backs coach in 2018 to 2021. And in 2021, his final years there, Shane, Washington led the country in pass defense. So that's critical to know. And also he was at San Jose State as a defensive backs coach for 2 years. So very experienced, and you see him working his way up the ladder all the way to the NFL. I mean, I got to believe he's a quality coach. Gerald Chapman is our new defensive line coach. That was something we really struggled last year's getting to the quarterback, pressures, and that's a big reason why the secondary in Florida struggled so much last year. Couldn't get pressure on the quarterback. When you give the quarterback all day to throw, he's gonna find holes to get you. So Gerald Chapman, Shane, now he's got an interesting track record. I just wanted to point this out. He was at Tulane last year as the defensive line coach. Tulane was very good last year, but last spring, so 2023 spring, he was LSU defensive line coach. So it's like, whoa, he's 2 jobs in a year, right? That's a little unusual, but not totally unheard of. 2022, Colorado defensive line coach, defensive coordinator. But in 2022 spring, Shane, Tulane defensive line coach. So I've never seen this in my life, Shay. There's a lot of new. We'll get to more of this, but
you must have a lot of family down there. He's just torn doing 2 jobs.
Four jobs in 2 years this guy's had. I mean, maybe he just likes spring somewhere warm. I don't know. But Gerald Chapman's our new defensive line coach.
Over there. Yeah, no, I get it. Have you been to Colorado? It's awesome when it's not 4 feet of snow outside.
And then we also got Billy loves 2 offensive line coaches. I don't get it, but hey, he's got his second one. Jonathan DeCoster, Shane. He was with the Cleveland Browns last year. He was coached Old Dominion tight ends before that, and he was an LSU GA. And now here's a little bit of a I don't want to say red flag, Shane, but the last that I could see that this guy coached offensive lines was at West Virginia State. Never even heard of that school. In 2015, 2016. That's according to his resume. That was the last time he coached offensive line. Now he's here with the Florida Gators coaching offensive line. Now, again, they got 2 offensive line coaches, but I just thought that was pretty interesting.
Interesting, yes. I mean, coaching staff and Billy Napier are interesting. I think they've got the largest coaching staff in the country. So Yeah, I'm not surprised with all these new names. And there may be other reasons, some things behind the scenes, maybe more
Right.
for recruiting or whatever. But yeah, I'm not worried about the offensive line coach right now because that wasn't our biggest problem last year.
No, certainly not. Now, let's get into the returning production for the Florida Gators. Shade, good news on the offensive side of the football. 64% of our production's back. That's number 5 in the entire SEC. So you're starting out strong, and it's led by, of course, Graham Mertz, that quarterback.
Yeah.
93% of our passing production's back. Number 4 in the SEC, Graham Mertz, 2,900 passing yards, 20 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions. He was highly efficient. Yeah, they didn't push the ball down the field, but he did what he was asked to do, and they got better and better and better as the season went along. And again, it wasn't the offense that was holding them back; it was the defense. So,
Yeah.
if they take another stride forward with year 2, I love these quarterbacks in year 2 of a system. They generally take off. I think Graham Mertz will do that this year. Rushing production back, Shane, 52%. And that may seem low, but that's 3rd in the SEC.
Yeah.
With Montrell Johnson back, 817 yards last year, 5 touchdowns. He had 10 touchdowns 2 years ago, so 15 touchdowns in 2 years. I think Montrell Johnson is going to be one of the breakout candidates in all the SECs. Doesn't have to split the carries as much with the other guy. We don't even have to mention him.
Don't
You know
talk
what I mean?
about him.
But Montrell Johnson, what name to know? Florida fans know him, but the rest of the SEC is going to learn about him this year. And then, speaking of breakout stars, Shane, receiving yards back, 56.8%. That's number 7th in the SEC, led by, who was a true freshman, now he's a true sophomore, of course, Trey Wilson, 538 yards, 6 touchdowns. He killed Tennessee last year. He killed a bunch of teams last year. Second season in college football. Trey Wilson's going to be all SEC. He could be All-American this year.
Yeah. Trey's dangerous. Absolutely. This is a name maybe you're not familiar with if you didn't face Florida Gators last year, but you talk about a dude. I mean, it's like Percy Harvin, man. He can do it all out there. He's absolutely dynamic and just a game changer. He's one of those that takes those little 5-yard bubble screens 80 yards, So I love the fact that, I mean, you kind of hit on it, but bringing Mertz back was huge. You had an opportunity to go on. I think that was – like if Mertz would have left, I really would have been I would have been shitting on Florida Gators all offseason. But the fact that he's bringing them back, Johnson and the guy we don't talk about, there's some people that said, hey, if I had to pick one to bring back, Johnson's the guy that I wanted. So I really like some of this returning talent, some of these older kids that kind of provide that leadership that these Florida Gators need.
Right. And then leading the way, just blocking for him, Shane. Offensive line, 53% is back. That's 12th in the SEC, so not perfect. But, again, we'll work around that. We got a new offensive line coach. He'll figure it out, Shane.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the defense here, we got a lot of returning production on the defensive side of the football. 61%'s back. That's number 6 in the SEC. Tackles, we're 60% returning, 6th in the SEC. Tackles for loss, 61%'s back. Again, 6th in the SEC. Sacks, 50% of our sacks are back. That's number 11 in the SEC. Interceptions, 66% of the interceptions are back. That's 5th in the SEC. And same as passes defended, 67%, 5th in the SEC. So right around, we're hovering 6th, 5th, most returning production on the defensive side of the football, but almost universally. That gives me a reason for optimism that our defense, I'm not saying they're going to be the steel curtain, Shane, but I think they're going to take a big step forward this fall.
Yeah, no, and I think that's where, that was some of our trouble last year, but a lot of that was excused because of the youth. This is like, we got to the tail end of the season, games like Missouri and stuff like that. It came down to the defense and them making pivotal stops. So another year under their belt, another off season. There's reason to be optimistic about this defense.
Right. Now, another reason to be optimistic, Shane, is the transfer portal. We bring in a lot of guys. Now, unfortunately, so far of our fall previews, you could argue Florida got hit the hardest as well via the transfer portal. So real quick, I'll go over some of these names, and it's not so much, some of these guys were certainly impact players, but it's more about where they're going, which gives you an indication of how quality some of these players are. Running back Trevor Etienne, I've kind of heard of him. He's off to Georgia, so we'll move on from that. Edge player Princely Umanamilian, he's over at Ole Miss. We talked very highly about him on our Ole Miss preview. Safety Miguel Mitchell, he's at Arkansas now. Corner Jadon Hill and linebacker Scooby Williams, both at Texas A&M. Expected to be contributors there. Defensive lineman Chris McClellan, he went to Mizzou. Offensive lineman Jalen Farmer, he went to Kentucky. Richie Leonard, starting offensive lineman, he's at Florida State now. Jalen Kimber, cornerback, he's at Penn State. Micah Mazuka, also a starter on the offensive line, he's at Nebraska now. And then Kamari Wilson, safety. He didn't really do much for Florida, but he was a top 100 prospect. He's at Arizona State now. So we got hit pretty good in the transfer portal, Shane.
Just making room, Mike. Just making room.
Just making room for the number of. Now, this is weird, Shane. Again, I'm not making fun of these services because, hey, they do a good job. I don't really understand the formulas, but for the guys we're bringing in via the transfer portal, 24/7 Sports got this as the number 5 transfer portal class in the country. On 3, they say number 19. Again, I don't get the disparity, but
they just lost some subscriptions down there in Gainesville, though.
So let's get into the guys they're bringing in, Shane. Some big-time impact players here for the Gators. Receiver Elijah Badger at Arizona State, 142 catches, 1,600 yards, 10 touchdowns in 3 seasons. Arizona State is where we got our last great receiver, Ricky Pershaw. Yep. So we're just going back to this.
Pipeline it.
Yeah, exactly. Another receiver we're bringing in, Shamir DK. Shane, he was at Wisconsin. He was one of Graham Mertz's favorite targets at Wisconsin. So now they're reunited in Gainesville. He had 97 catches, 1,400 receiving yards, 9 touchdowns up there at Wisconsin. So quality player there. Cornerback DJ Douglas from Tulane, 80 tackles, 4 picks in his career up there. And here's one to know, Shane. This is defensive lineman Joey Slackman.
Yeah.
He played at Penn. And up there in the Ivy Leagues, they have a weird ruling where they don't give out the COVID-free year. So anybody in the Ivy Leagues, they can take advantage of that. They just have to transfer out. Well, he came down to Florida, Shane. He was the Ivy League Defensive Player of the Year last year. 50 tackles, 12 tackles for loss, 4 sacks just last season at Penn. So Joey Slackman, interesting name. We'll see how that translates to the SEC.
I almost went to the Ivy League. No, I'm just kidding.
You would have used your 5th year to come back to the SEC, I'll tell you that. Safety Ace Attorney. He was a big impact player at Washington, Shane, that went all the way to the playoff. 148 tackles, 6 picks, 7 tackles for loss in his 4 seasons up there. Safety, I'm going to butcher this one, Shane. Trickweezy Bridges up there at Oregon. 93 tackles, 4 picks, 9 passes defended, 2 forced fumbles up there at Oregon. Edge defender George Gums from Northern Illinois. 32 tackles, 6.5 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. That's just last year's stats. Offensive lineman Devon Manuel from Arkansas. He had 4 starts last year, so he'll add some depth. They're very excited about this guy, Shane. Offensive lineman Brandon Crenshaw Dixon from San Diego State. 35 starts at San Diego State. He started left tackle. He started right tackle. He can play both for the Florida Gators wherever we need him. We needed some quarterback depth because all we really got is Mertz. We got the freshman. We'll get to him in a minute. And now we got Clay Millen from Colorado State. He's got 2,000 passing yards, 10 touchdowns, 7 picks at Colorado State. Nice little depth piece there. Tight end Caleb Relos from Air Force. We always respect the military guys here, Shane. 11 catches, 167 yards, and a touchdown. Linebacker Grayson Pup Howard from South Carolina. He was one of their star freshmen. 19 tackles last year. Now he's a Gator. Cornerback Cormani McClain. He was one of Dion's guys that he stole from everybody out here in the Sunshine State. Well, he's back because one season of Colorado is enough for most people. So he's back. He was a top 100 talent last year. And then another. This is interesting, Shane. They got 2 guys via the portal that signed elsewhere as high school players and then quickly left, and they came back to be Florida Gators. Cornerback Jameer Grizzly, he signed with Alabama, Shane, number 10 corner prospect in the country. So he never suited up for Bama, just went for spring, Well, I think he signed, Saban retired, and he said, "The hell with them. I'm coming back to play for Billy." And then offensive lineman Jason Saldamia from Southern Cal, number 4 interior offensive line prospect in the entire country, Shane, signed up, spent a couple months out there and said, "This garbage Pac-12, whatever league they're in, I'm going back to Florida." So he was the top offensive line prospect in the portal when Florida signed him. So I think a lot of impact. But you know what's interesting about a lot of these guys, Shane? It seems like Billy is very confident, as he should be, that he ain't one and done. You know, that he's coming back.
Yeah,
he's signing a lot of these guys that, you know, like some of these guys I just mentioned at the tail end here, they probably won't make an impact. You probably shouldn't be making a huge impact as a true freshman in the SEC, but he's signing them for 2025, 2026.
Yeah.
And I think that's a smart way to build your program.
Yeah, and it's unusual these days, but I'm telling you, brother, if you can keep them on campus, that's why I don't like the way we started this transfer portal, all these guys leaving. But if you could keep them onto that campus, and you do that by winning, Mike. I mean, at the end of the day, winning football games, chasing championships, these players aren't going to go somewhere because their next stop is the NFL. So they're like on the verge of doing that. And if they manage it, then you could see this system working in the future.
Right. Now, as for the recruiting class, Shane, we got the number 13 recruiting class in the country, 7th in the SEC. We got a couple of 5-stars, though, everybody's excited about. DJ Lagway, number 2 quarterback prospect in the entire country. A lot of people have him as number 1, so we cannot wait to see him on the field. And LJ McCray, the number 5 defensive lineman in the country. I would imagine he'll make an impact for the Gators this year as well. Signed 12 4-stars, Shane, led by Miles Graham, number 5 linebacker prospect. Aaron Childs, the number 6 linebacker prospect, getting some help there. Amir Jackson, I like this guy, number 7 tight end in the country. And Gregory Smith, number 13 safety. KD Daniels, the number 16 running back. And Jaden Baugh, the number 19 running back that they had to keep away from Alabama. Thank God he didn't go to Alabama, Shane, because Nick Saban ain't even there anymore. You know what I mean? We ain't going to cheat and lie in Alabama. We're going to go play for Billy.
Absolutely, man. Hey, let me ask you on that note. DJ's obviously going to steal the headlines there, but is there maybe a contributor that you see in that class maybe helping the Florida Gators this year?
Oh, yeah. I mean, basically everybody I just mentioned there, Shane. I mean, these are the guys that I think will really make an impact, but particularly the running backs, KD Daniels, Jaden Baugh, I could certainly see, because I like what we have at running back, but I think we're a little thin. I like the linebackers. I'd love to see the tight end, Amir Jackson, come in and contribute as well. And LJ McCray, the 5-star defensive lineman, I think it's going to be hard to keep him off the field as well.
Absolutely. Oh, man, how can you not get pumped up, man? You know what I'm saying? I mean, if you're a Florida Gator and you're listening to these names, you're like, man, we just need 3 or 4 to pop, and then all of a sudden we're in there.
Right. So let's break down the offensive depth chart, Shane, ranking the position groups. And I think this is the first one that I've done this, Shane, where I'm going quarterbacks, number 1. My favorite position on Florida's offense this year, led by, of course, Graham Mertz, back for another season. He's got 6 seasons seemingly of college football experience, so he's back. I mentioned the transfer Clay Millen, nice little depth piece, and DJ Lagway. It's really the wild card of DJ Lagway.
Yeah.
Don't quite know what we're going to get from him, how much playing experience, but as I understand it, Shane, the plan is to play him and basically play him in every game. So what does that mean? We'll find out, but they're going to have to get creative. I'm certainly not saying he's going to unseat Graham Mertz, but I think there's going to be packages for DJ Lagway, get his feet wet, so that when he is the starter in a year from now, it's not totally foreign to him.
Well, I understand it because, last year as a Vol fan, which we shouldn't be talking about on this one, but you had that Nico there, and so you were just like, I mean, it didn't matter what the score was, whether you're up or down, it's like, there's a chance. You never turn the game off because there's a chance DJ's going to walk out there and you're going to be reminded why he was a 5-star quarterback, recruit. So I get that excitement. But then for Florida Gators and not so distant history, you remember the Tim Tebow Leak thing,
Right.
We had a great quarterback with Leak, but that little flair of Tebow coming in there is what really sparked, the Swamp Kings, man.
Yeah, no doubt.
They didn't talk about Leak too much in that show. You know what I'm saying? So maybe so that little DJ, I think there's just an extra level of excitement down in that quarterback room, especially.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, Shane, thankfully you're sitting down here because otherwise this will blow you over. But second position group for me, tight end, Shane, believe it or not. I like what we got at tight end here. We're bringing back starter Hayden Hansen, started 9 games last year, 12 catches, 150 yards, 2 touchdowns. We're bringing back Arliss Boardingham. He played in 12 games, 289 receiving yards, 4 touchdowns. Keon Zipper, that's a name to remember. Missed all of last season, unfortunately, due to injury, so he's back. He's played in 41 games, 486 yards, 4 touchdowns. Tony Livingston, he's played a little bit for us. And then the freshman, Amir Jackson, number 7 tight end prospect in the country. This may be one of the better tight end units in all the SEC this year.
Oh, man, clip that and put it on Twitter.
Now, I like offensive line next, Shane. We're splitting hairs here now. Got Austin Barber back. He started many games for us during his Gator career at left tackle. I believe he was all freshman SEC 2 years ago. So he's back for his junior year. Jake Slaughter at center, 574 snaps last year, 8 starts. Damian George struggled a little bit at right tackle. We're shifting him to guard this year. 11 starts last year after transferring in from Alabama. He played 693 snaps. We also got some experience back, Shane. Cameron Waits, 2 starts last year at right tackle, played 216 snaps. He played in every single SEC contest. And Nija Harris, 1 start last year as a true freshman, played in 12 games, 171 snaps. And don't forget the transfers. Devon Manuel from Arkansas, who had 4 starts, and transfer Brandon Crenshaw Dixon, who played at San Diego State, started 35 games up there. And then the Southern Cal transfer, Jason Zaldamila. So, I mean, we got a nice collection here. We got to figure out who's playing where, who's the backups and everything. But there's a lot of offensive lines we've covered, Shane, that I don't think will match this one here and the one we got in Gainesville.
That's why you got another coach for it, Mike, You got too many students, you add another teacher, you know what I'm saying? Depth's what you want, man. Depth and experience. And, I mean, obviously, you'd love to bring back the starting 5, but,
right.
I think the ability to kind of rotate some of these guys, find out where they're going to be good at, it's overlooked, man. It's overlooked until you don't have it. And there's so many teams that we're going to talk about here in the next couple of weeks that didn't have it last year, and they didn't have it, and it resulted in a losing season. So, yeah, that offensive line, man, you just can't replace it.
Right. Now, as for the receivers, Shane, again, we've talked about Trey Wilson. He's awesome.
Yeah.
No doubt about him. But so this is not a reflection on him, but it's more about what's the other players, because I just don't, I'm not seeing a ton. Now, we did add some transfers, so we'll get to that. But Khalil Jackson started last year. He's a former walk-on, Shane. He started 9 games for us, 294 yards and a touchdown. Jaquavion Fraziers, he's played 42 games, but just 143 yards receiving, 3 touchdowns. Marcus Burke is back. He's played 18 games, but he's got 12 catches to his name. And then we got some talented sophomores that like Andy Jean and Aiden Mizell. They played sparingly last year. And then we're bringing in the transfers, Elijah Badger from Arizona State and Shamir Dike from Wisconsin. So I'm not saying we don't got players, but it's a lot of it's unproven, and particularly unproven in a Gator uniform. That's why I kind of have the receivers here. But you just know there's going to be a breakout player or two from this group.
Well, I follow a lot of these Florida homers, and this is one of the groups they talk about the most is that maybe the nation's sleeping on them. So obviously Trey leads that pack, but there's a lot of names that do have experience, but maybe just not names you're familiar with yet. So I don't know, man. You got a quarterback that could get you the ball, so that's key number 1. But I don't know. Maybe we look back and talk about this wide receiver room at the end of the season.
Right. And then last but not least, Shane, running backs. Again, Montrell Johnson, he's awesome. Nearly 1,700 rushing yards the last 2 years, 15 touchdowns. Liked what I saw from Trey Webb last year as a true freshman, now obviously a sophomore. 163 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then the 2 freshmen, KD Daniels, number 16 running back recruit, and Jaden Baugh, the number 18 running back recruit. But I'm a little concerned here that Shane, I've already mentioned freshmen here, and running back, we know Billy loves to run that football.
Yeah.
I think I'm surprised we didn't add any transfers here to make up for guys we may have lost here. But this is a good group. But again, it's just this is dangerously thin for me.
Yeah, but maybe we got us a bell cow situation here. I think Johnson could be that guy, and maybe the threat of not losing those touches, is. I mean, we don't have it as much anymore, and I kind of miss it. But sometimes, brother, you get that guy going and that offensive line going, and it can be boring at times. 3 yards here, 5 yards here, but those chains just keep moving and keep moving. That's what kind of offense they could produce here, just that grinding style, So right. I don't know. There'll be other names pop up, but if you're going to be thin in any department on that side of the ball, this is the one to be in.
And I would also say, Shane, it's obvious that it's easiest to make an impact as a true freshman, I think, at running back than any other position on the football field.
Absolutely. And you got to remember, these Florida Gators like to do a lot of running with wide receivers. I mentioned Trey earlier. That's another dude that's going to be able to take some pressure off that running back room. So, yeah, they'll be creative, if you will.
Yeah, well, they may have to be. All right, so let's get to the defensive side of the ball, Shane. I'm going defensive line as the best unit here. Bring back Tyreek Sapp and Cam Jackson and Caleb Banks, all starters from last year. So we're getting quality guys here. These guys have all started more than 10 games.
They're banned by 3 Chinese restaurant buffets down there. I'm telling you right now. They got their picture, and don't let these boys in here. I get it. I get the same treatment up here in East Tennessee. There's a few places I'm not allowed to go to anymore.
Yep. Sapp, 44 tackles, 2 sacks, 5 tackles for loss in his 2 seasons down there. Cam Jackson, Shane, 32 tackles. He was SEC Defensive Lineman of the Week after the Tennessee. He was a game wrecker against them Vols. Caleb Banks, 19 tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss last season. We also bringing back some experienced depth around him. Justice Boone, he was a big-time player 2 years ago. He got hurt in camp, missed all of last season, unfortunately, but he's back. And personally, my favorite, Shane, the big Dez Watson, 464 pounds of man meat down there. But he's played 38 games. He's got 43 tackles, Shane. It is not easy to get that many tackles at nose tackle, but he's a beast down there.
Jeez. How big is he now?
464, according to Florida's roster.
God, I think we have the same attributes, right? But he's a lot better than I am.
We also got Jameer Lyons. He's played 12 games. TJ Searcy, he's also played 12 games. Kirby Collins, another 12-gamer. Jack Pyburn, 8 games played last year. Kamon James, he played 12 games. And then the transfers, again, I mentioned this guy, Joey Slackman from the Penn, Ivy League Defensive Player of the Year last year. Edge defender George Gums from Northern Illinois. And then the freshman L.J. McCray. If our defense takes a step forward, Shane, it's going to be because this defensive line plays up to their potential and gets to the quarterback. But this is a hell of a building block, I think, to move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like if you're building your defense, and I've said this on a couple of shows, it's like on that side of the ball, that defensive line kind of helps out those linebackers, helps out that secondary. So this is what you want right here, and super talented group, brother.
Second group, Shane, I got the linebackers. Shamar James, future star here, started 8 games, but unfortunately season-ending injury. But he's got 102 tackles in his 2 seasons there at Florida as a freshman and a sophomore. Derek Wingo, right behind him, he's played 12 games, got 17 tackles, 3 tackles for loss. Jaden Robinson, he's played 12 games, 1 start. He's an emerging player for us. R.J. Moten, he's played 7 games. And then don't overlook the transfer, Pup Howard from South Carolina. 19 tackles as a true freshman for the Gamecocks last year. He's from Florida. He's coming back home. And then the two freshmen, Miles Graham, number 5 linebacker prospect, and Aaron Childs, the number 6 linebacker prospect. So not a ton of experience outside of maybe Shamar James and Derek Wingo here, but a ton of promise, a lot of young talent here. I think it's going to be an underrated part of Florida's defense.
Oh, yeah. Well, they will be. And those guys up front, I can't stress those guys, because when you're chewing up double teams, that frees up those linebackers, and then all of a sudden they start shining. So, yeah, they'll get the spotlight at the end of the day, but it's because, again, that defensive front.
Right. Now, the last but not least, defensive backs. They got torched last year, but again, I think a lot of that was on the defensive line. Jason Marshall, 38 games, 32 career starts. Many have him as the top NFL prospect from the Gators. 78 tackles, 2 picks, 23 passes defended. He's your definition of a lockdown corner down there in Gainesville. Jordan Castile's back, 11 starts last year, 60 tackles, led the team in tackles, Shane. He had a pick, 3 passes defended. And then we got some experience back in Devin Moore, Dejon Johnson, Sharif Denson, Jakeem Jackson, and Aaron Gates. All those guys played last year. And then the transfers, safety, Asa Turner from Washington, Trequez Bridges from Oregon, and then the freshman Gregory Smith, the number 13 safety prospect in the country. We throw all these guys together, I think we've got us a unit we can win ball games with.
Yes, but we're going to get to concerns here in a minute, and that's my problem, is just some of those exiting defensive backs, even though, like you said, at times they got torched a few times last year, but they were still super talented kids that maybe just didn't quite figure out the game quick enough. So I don't know. I am worried. A lot of new names, but I can see why you have this one at the bottom of your list.
And I know special teams has been a little bit of an issue under Billy Napier, Shane, but it shouldn't be the kicking game this year. We got Trey Smack. He was a Lou Groza semifinalist last year, Kicker of the Year award. 17 of 21 on field goals.
How is Lou?
Huh?
How is Lou these days?
I think he's long since dead.
Sorry. Rest in peace, Lou.
29 of 29 on PATs. And then Jeremy Crawshaw's back at punter. He's maybe got the best mustache in the SEC, Shane, and he's been our starting punter 3 years in a row. So again, if these guys are giving us issues, we got real problems on special teams.
Yeah,
you know what?
Absolutely.
All right, now as for the top 10 players from the Florida Gators on the EA Sports college football video game, Shane, this is a tougher one to do because there are some players we've highlighted, high-end talent, but I kind of had to search for some of these, but I got the highest rated player on the game. Montrell Johnson, running back. Give me a 94 for him. I think he's going to be a huge star. Trey Wilson, I got him at the receiver. He's got a 93, so I'm just splitting hairs right there. Graham Mertz, quarterback, I'm giving him a 92. Shamar James, a linebacker, 91. This was for you, Shay. You always give me hell about not having the kickers on here. Give me Trey Smack, the kicker, at 90. He's an elite kicker, so one of our top 5 players there. Jason Marshall, the corner, give me an 89.
Yeah.
Starting center, Jake Slaughter, give me an 88. Cam Jackson, defensive lineman, give me a 88. Safety, Jordan Castile, leading tackler back, 87. And then wild card, Shay. If you got the video game, you may... I'm not saying this, again, not saying this is going to happen in real life, but the video game, it may happen. Give me DJ Lagway, 86 as a true freshman. I think a lot of people are going to get that game in their hands and say, what's his speed? What's his throwing? Let's make that switch. You know what?
Absolutely. That's the first thing. Florida fans are lying if they keep Mertz in there. You know what I'm saying? Oh, yeah. You playing that game, you want somebody to get out of that pocket quick. So now let me ask y'all Jackson, because that's the one I if he was in that room right now, would you have him at 87? Huh? What would you do? 99.
Oh, no doubt. No, I mean, I've seen it before. You know what?
That's awesome.
Now, biggest camp question. This is an interesting one for me, Shane. I was kind of, I think, and I mean, this kind of goes without saying, but will all the offseason noise, will that drive this team to become better, to prove the doubters wrong? Because there's so many doubters. or will it destroy the team? Because I think it could go both ways. And when fans talk about, or players talk about the negativities of social media and things of that nature, I think this is exactly what they're talking about. I mean, there have been players on the Gators, and I don't mean to necessarily call them out, but that's who we're talking about here. There have been players, Shane, that say that we've got the worst damn fans in the country. And it's not that they're bad. It's just that they're so damn passionate that when you ain't living up to expectations, you bet your ass they're going to let you know about it. So will that drive them? Will that divide them? That's the $1 million question I have for the Gators.
Well, that's a good one to have too, Mike. I mean, obviously, we talked about some of these early exits from some of these kids on the team, so how much of that was the locker room and how, because you want your brothers in arms, you've got to make this thing go. We have got to have everybody completely bought in. Right. And so sometimes when I do see some of that at the end of the year, I'm like, well, maybe they got the bad apples out of here. Maybe they got some of those negative Nellies that maybe lost us a few games, not maybe on talent on the field, but in that locker room as a united front. So, yeah, man, I think complete buy-in is something you got to have. And we've heard that from a couple of players. So it's not like you're just making this up. You've heard it, that everybody doubts us mentality. And when you get something like that, then everybody's playing because they've got something to prove.
Right. And very similar right after it, Shane. Again, this could be the same damn thing. I'm just repeating myself. But when they come out in the opener, it's such a huge game. We'll get to the schedule in just a minute. But will they come out and play as if they've got nothing to lose? Or will they be tight? Because I don't know. There's no way in hell you could convince me there's all the players know that if they lose this year, Billy's done.
Yeah.
So I mean, how will they respond to that? Will they fight extra hard for their coach? Will they? I don't know. And getting that game at home is so paramount because if it's a tight game late in that game, we all know the swamp that'll will you to victory down there. I'd be much more concerned if it was at Miami. Not that they have much of a crowd, but just the home field advantage that we do have in the swamp. You know what?
Well, and it's not just for the coach here. You talk about a room full of prideful kids. Every single athlete in that building was a star wherever they were from. They were king shit on campus, and everybody looked up to them. And so when you come to a program in the SEC and you find yourself with 4 wins, 5 wins, it's there's a long view in the mirror, and you're like, did I give everything? Did I not give all in the offseason to kind of launch us into? So I think there's a prideful thing just for the kids there. They're used to being the best, and I think that's what they're striving for. So yeah, I get a lot of that outside noise, and I think they deflect it, man.
Right, and then more specifically, just for the team, Shane, how much improved is the defense? And it has to be improved. We can't have what we had last year. So how big of a step have they taken? Mm-hmm. And really last for me, and this is not a huge thing, but what will the role be for DJ Lagway? Because again, he's going to get so much hype and praise, and every time he comes into the fourth quarter and scores a touchdown or two, fans are going to be like, "Oh baby, this is the guy here." So that's going to start ramping up. Finding the role for DJ Lagway is going to be big for me.
It's kind of crazy. Mertz had no pressure, none at all last year, and now I'm not saying he's going to be looking over his shoulder, but if he does have a bad game, that's the first thing people are going to say. Let's put the young kid in. So I don't know. I'm not saying there's quarterback controversy down there in Florida, but if they do start using him a little bit in every game, I think that adds, just another level of excitement there.
Well, and to your point of the Swamp Kings, I mean, fans would literally boo when they took Tim Tebow off the field, put C.J. Leak back, even though they were undefeated, winning a national championship. They're booing his ass. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're just damn crazy about football,
That's right.
All right, Shane. All right, schedule breakdown. And if you're new to this is the only one you've watched so far, what we like to do before we pick the games, we list them as a win, loss, or toss. Ones the Gators should win just by looking at it here on paper. Ones they unlikely to win, and then the ones defined as toss-ups. And I've got a couple here. I always like to see if Shane agrees with me. Unfortunately, Shane, I only have a couple of should-be wins on this schedule. You let me know if you disagree. I got Sanford, of course. I mean, that's a pick your score.
Yeah.
Should win by 100 here if we wanted to. At Mississippi State,
Yep.
That's a should-be win, I think, for the Florida Gators. And then Central Florida at home, October 5th. That I also have listed as a should-be win.
Yep. No, that's it.
Okay. Well, then that means we got a couple. And again, you can disagree with me if you disagree. That's fine. Should be likely losses. I've got Georgia and Jacksonville.
Yeah.
I've got at Texas. And I got Ole Miss November 23rd. It is in Gainesville, but I'm not saying you can't win it, but I think it'd be an upset.
Yeah, I think you're right, man. So let me get this straight. Sanford win, Mississippi State win, UCF win.
Mm-hmm.
Probably going to be a loss. You got Georgia, Texas, and Ole Miss.
And the one at Texas is at Texas. That
Yeah.
was kind of key for me there.
Yeah. Okay. I'm right there with you.
So then toss-ups is where it's going to get interesting. This is where we're going to make or break a season. Miami right out the gate.
Yeah.
A&M at home, thank God. At Tennessee. Kentucky at home. LSU at home. And at Florida State. I got 6 toss-ups. Any of those you would throw into the should be a win. Any you throw into should be a loss.
No, man, it's tough being the Florida homer, isn't it? You know? No, I think going into the season, I think realistically, you're convincing yourself that you have a shot. Doesn't mean you're going to win all those games, but you at least have a shot when you face those teams.
Right. So, I don't mean to skip ahead, Shane, but we also like to do games that are most important to win.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any doubt. And I don't think there's any surprise. But it's got to be this week 1, Miami.
Yeah.
Again, Miami's loaded up in the transfer portal. I think they, for all the criticism that I've had for Billy Napier, he's 20 times the coach of Mario Cristobal. So you got an edge in coaching. You're playing at home. You're hyping up all this experience. You're hyping up your talent. You're hyping up your roster. You simply cannot lose this football game. And the fact that it's nationally televised is just going to add more intrigue, criticism, what have you, if you drop this game. Miami's added some nice transfer pieces, Shane, particularly at quarterback and running back. Mm-hmm. Well, you're bringing back your quarterback and running back. So, yeah, give me the edge to Florida here. I'm not fully confident in it. We have seen, Billy Napier's teams, they've completely whiffed in openers. Remember, they beat Utah a couple of years ago in the opener. So we've seen the good. We've seen the bad. We got to get the good right out the gate. No, there's just no time to struggle here. So give me a win for Florida. But, man, I just can't imagine the pressure on this team to deliver week 1.
Yeah, and longtime listeners know that this is the game I've probably mentioned more than any of them this offseason because, Billy is under pressure. We know that. Florida Gators are under pressure. And we've got this damn daunting schedule that we're breaking up. You can see right now it is not easy, and it's the first thing people want to mention when you talk about those Florida Gators. But, having the success, the successful season that they want to have, it all rides on August 31st, man. You've got to beat the Miami Hurricanes, and you've got to beat them. You don't need to I'm talking, this needs to be a damn shot across the bow and let the country know that everybody was wrong on the Florida Gators. So, absolutely, that is a pivotal, by far and away, number one most important game of their schedule.
Right. So, again, we pick these games optimistically as Florida fans. Are you giving them a win here, Shane?
Brother, I'm going to tell you right now, all that I just said, it's going to come down to which team's ready, which team's prepared. And I like Florida here, man. I think there's a real – and I'm not just saying this optimistically. I'm saying this realistically. Yeah. I think there's a real good shot the Florida Gators surprise a few people, myself included, after this one, because I don't think it's a close game. I think it's an absolute freaking blowout, and everybody, and I can't wait for the Steve Spurrier cam again, so they could go up there and maybe he's nodding yes, like, hey, we got the guy, because that's what they need, man. The fan base needs that. They need to remind everybody that this is the Florida Gators. This isn't FAU. This isn't, all these other losers that are in the South Florida. This is the Florida damn Gators, and it's the best team that's in the state of Florida.
Right. And week 2, home game, Sanford, not even going to waste any time. Automatic win. So we're already off to 2-0, Shane. Now, here, again, we're doing this optimistically, Florida fans, as we pick these games. But week 3, Texas A&M comes to town, and I know they're annually overhyped. They got talent. I like the hire of Mike Elko, but we are the freaking Florida Gators, Shane.
Yeah.
We're getting them at home. First-year coach, first-year coordinators, a lot of turnover on their roster. You can make the case that, this is going to be a tough game, physical game, and there have actually been some really good battles between Florida and A&M since they've joined since they've been conference opponents here. But this should not be one of them, Shane.
Yeah.
This is year 3 of Billy Napier. This is game 3 for Mike Elko. Florida wins big, and if they don't, I think we got a real problem here.
Yeah, getting ahead, the second most important game, I think, is this one right here, opening up SEC play. Everything you say, A&M is a tough opponent, will be a tough opponent. I think Elko's the right guy, but you're talking week 3. Who's got their shit together? It should be the Florida Gators at this point. They started out 2-0. Everybody's starting to buy back into Napier's system, and they're saying, hey, they're a team. It all goes right out the window if you lose to the A&M Aggies, which you don't, Mike. It's at home. God, it's in the swamp. Remind them, it's still 110 degrees down there in September. So there's no reason that you should drop this one. I think if you got A&M later in the season, I think that's when you can make the case that this is a football game. I think this is a big win for the Florida Gators, opening up SEC play.
Right. And then the following week, your first road game of the year. Yeah, everybody talks about how hard the schedule is, Shay. The schedule makers did them a favor with those 3 home games and the first road game being at Mississippi State. I know Mississippi State can be tough. They'll be engaged. Those fans will be ringing those damn bells all game long. But this is, again, first-year coach, first-year quarterback, first-year damn near everything for Mississippi State. This could be a trap game, but it should be Florida favored by at least a touchdown, in my opinion, given everything, all their experience, everything back. So, hey, believe it or not, we're 4-0, cruising into the bye week, in my opinion. Do you think Florida can beat Mississippi State at Starkville?
Yeah, I do. But I think you hit the nail on the head here, man. This is a little bit of a tricky game. You don't want this to become a shootout, which Lebby wants. That's what Mississippi State wants. They want there to be no defense involved, and we're just going up and down the field. And I think that's kind of going to be Mississippi State's wheelhouse the first couple of seasons. Play Gator ball. Keep those chains moving. Keep that offense off the field, and I think you'll be fine here. But you got to be careful for that natural kind of letdown or hangover effect after that A&M game. But I do think the Florida Gators can start 4-0 here.
And just imagine, Shane, after all this negativity outside the fans in Gainesville, if we're 4-0 and we're cruising into the bye week, the narrative shifts completely. This is what I'm talking about. Florida may start to get buzz for being a top 25 team now. And you got 2 weeks to prepare for Central Florida. Again, another sort of trappish type game. They got KJ now. They got, of course, Gus Malzahn leading the way. But just everything I know about Central Florida, it'll be their Super Bowl. I get it. But there's no excuse for losing this game if you're the Florida Gators. This is still, they may consider themselves Power 5. They ain't Power 5, no. Shane. This is like a kindergarten type non-conference. This is a cupcake game that you want before you got to get back into SEC play. So give me 5-0 for the Florida Gators.
Absolutely. I think there's going to be some intriguing storylines coming off of this one. Like you talked about with Malzahn and KJ the last time he was down, these two teams faced. But no, UCF is a fun story but they're not an SEC story. And this is another big win for the Florida Gators. And I think when I say big win, I'm talking about a damn blowout, brother.
Right. And now we get to Shane's favorite game of the year in the SEC schedule, Shane. Josh Heupel's got Tennessee rolling at this point in time. They could be undefeated at themselves. They have to get over NC State. They do have a tough trip to Oklahoma. So we'll know a lot about the Vols going into this matchup with Florida coming to Rocky Top. But, man, it is tough, Shane. It is tough. They got Nico. They got all this coming back on the offensive line. They may have the best defensive line in the entire SEC. They'll have 100,000 plus fans screaming Rocky Top at the top of their lungs, Shane. As good, Florida may be undefeated. This is just too tough of a game. This is the game circled on Tennessee's calendar. I just don't see there's any way that Florida gets the win. But they do, Shane. Come on, they own the Tennessee Vols. I don't care where this damn game's played. This is one of these games that doesn't make any sense. There's some kind of weird voodoo magic that Florida has over Tennessee. I don't have to tell you that with your walk of shame over there last year having to walk 13 miles. But, I mean, Florida could be 0-6, 0-5, and Tennessee could be 5-0, and I could see Florida winning this damn game. So there's no logic to this one other than Florida always wins this damn game somehow, some way. And every year we say it in the offseason, and then we get to the game, we say, you know what, Tennessee's going to win. And we look like damn idiots. So I ain't doing it this year, Shane. I'm going Florida to beat them Tennessee Vols on Rocky Top.
Oh, man. I tell you what, Mike. That was last year's Tennessee team. And last year's Tennessee team did not have Nico. Didn't have these receivers all back. You didn't have this defense ready to rock and roll, brother. It wasn't at Neyland Stadium, brother. This is probably one of the best, if not the best, Tennessee team that Florida Gators have ever met. And I know I'm a Tennessee homer, and everybody talks about that, and I'm extremely biased, but Mike, there's no shot in hell the Florida Gators can win this game at Neyland Stadium. But you're right. They end up doing it because they always do for some damn reason. They can roll out a one-legged quarterback out there. They're still going to find a way to beat the Tennessee Vols. So, yes, the story of the Florida Gators, just the new decaying dynasty, is now flipped the script and is undefeated up to this point. And then now everybody's saying, how far can these Florida Gators go? So, yes, I've been a part of a lot of great Tennessee teams, man. A lot of them. There's a lot of teams rolling into the Florida Gators, either down their facilities or they're here, and you're like, there is no way in hell we lose to these Gators. But I think of guys like Muschamp yelling at the fans, it's like, they just always have our damn number. So optimistically, there's not a Florida Gator fan down there right now that thinks they're going to lose that football game.
Right. Now, the next week could be just as tricky, though, Shane, because you want to talk bad mojo, it's flipped the other way, where Kentucky owns your ass. And I mean, last year was just embarrassing. And we had Napier come out here and say, well, by God, I mean, this is they have the program we want to have. And you just can't be the Florida coach saying that about Kentucky. I don't care if Kentucky's number one in the country. You cannot be saying that. So this is a tricky game, Shane. And quite honestly, if this game was in Lexington, I'd pick Kentucky to do it again. But this is one where even if we're 6-0 here, we're ranked in the top 25, I think all that momentum goes right out the window if we lose to Kentucky at home. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Kentucky, but as Florida coach, you should literally never lose to Kentucky at home. We beat Kentucky 40-something years in a row, whatever it was. And again, they're better now. You can lose to them in Lexington. You can't lose to them in the Swamp. Give me the Gators to win this one, too, and setting up just an awesome game against Georgia. Does Florida finally beat Kentucky? And I can't believe that's the way I phrase that question, but that's the reality.
Yeah, I always think about, like, what was said when Billy did his initial interview with the Gators. They're probably like, hey, we want you to go bowling. We want you to beat Tennessee. We want you to beat Florida State. And I don't think Kentucky was ever mentioned. I think that was just a given. But now we're going into this season, and they're probably getting ready because if it does go bad, they're going to have an exit interview, and they're going to say, because you kept losing to Kentucky. So you cannot lose to the Kentucky Wildcats, and I'm with you right here. If you could beat Tennessee, if you could beat A&M, you could beat Miami, you can beat Kentucky. So give me an undefeated season so far? Come on now.
Well, hey, all those good vibes, they're coming to an end. I'm sorry, Shay. I mean, I can't go in good conscience any further because we got Georgia in Jacksonville. Now, again, if we're undefeated, this is going to be a ball game. It's going to be, this will be this will be a damn street fight here. I'm just imagining the cocktail party, Florida, Georgia. Who knows? If you're undefeated, you could have a better record in Georgia.
Yeah.
At this point in time, because Georgia's got to go to Bama. They got some tough games coming up. They have Kentucky as well. That one's in Lexington. So, again, I'm not saying Georgia's going to be bad or anything, and they're going to show it here on Saturday. Kirby hates Florida. He hates everything to do with that university. I think he kind of puts them in their place, so to speak. So, this is the first one I have to say a loss for the Florida Gators.
Yeah. I'd love to say that this rivalry was back, but it's not yet. It could be, and I think that's why this season could be that launch pad to make this one fun again, because it used to be one of the best premier, rivalries in the country, and it's kind of lost its luster because it's just blowout after blowout. So, unfortunately, I don't think you win this one, but man, you'd like to see a ball game, man.
Right. Now, the following week, this is where we get into tricky territory, Shane, because you don't want to have one game trickle into two and kind of beat you twice, particularly your dream season. But again, expanded playoff. One loss doesn't eliminate you from anything. We're not even doing divisions anymore. So if Florida's 7-1 here and their only loss is to Georgia, they're still in it for the SEC championship race as well. So there'd be a lot of momentum coming into this Texas game. I'm been quite clear. I questioned how good Texas can be in this league, having to face SEC opponents week in, week out. I think this will be a 4-quarter ball game. I really do. But it's in Austin. If people are right about them, they could be undefeated by this point in time. So slight edge, but I got to give this one on the road. I have to give it to Texas as well.
Yeah, I think the biggest Florida homer out there thinks that they got a shot here, and it really just depends on a few things for me, man. I mean, we're kind of basing this on what we think Texas will be,
right?
And then again, what Florida can be. So does this defensive back? Does the defense get figured out? If the defense gets figured out, then all of a sudden some other pieces start falling together, and I think that if this game were in Gainesville, I'm right there with you, Mike. I think that there's a shot that you have a shot, but unfortunately, there's going to be a natural wind out of your sails. I've seen it with this Billy Napier squad before. After you drop that Georgia game, it's like, the wheels sometimes falls off. So going out there to Austin, I think that's the kind of scenario we're going to have. So unfortunately, Mike, even optimistically, I got to give them 2 losses right now.
Right. Now, I know you're over the moon on LSU, Shade, but I ain't quite there with you yet. Now, again, I could be perfectly wrong. They could be in playoff contention, SEC race contention. But when we come back to Gainesville, this is another bad streak. We got to snap if we're Billy Napier and company. But considering they're having to replace a Heisman winner, 2 first-round receivers, I still don't like their personnel on defense. I like the coaches they've made, but I don't like the players necessarily as a collective unit. So I think this is a back-and-forth game, and it's been said on this show by some of the guests. I mean, Florida and LSU last year, this is crazy to say, Shane, but they were basically the same damn team, except one had Jaden Daniels and one didn't, because they were both awful on defense, and one of them just had this super dynamic player. Well, LSU ain't got him anymore, and Florida's got their guys back. So give me the Gators, Shane, to snap his streak, beat LSU in Gainesville. This will be a defining game, I really do think, because if you lose the first 2 before this and you lose this one, I think the season, even if we go 7-0, it could go off the rails if it's loss, and we may not even gotten to the toughest damn game yet.
Buddy, this is one of my favorite games. It seems like it doesn't matter what either team has on their roster. It's going to be close. It's going to come down the wire. You know, I that's one of the things I love about, from goal line stands to homecomings to, just shoe tosses, you name it. It's in this game. You're going to love it. And I love the fact that it is in Gainesville. And I think you hit the nail on the head. I think you're still in my notes here, but you don't have Jaden Daniels in this football game. That's a huge, huge piece for what LSU was able to do to him last year. So, yeah, I think when you look at this rivalry, it's going to come down to the wire, and because it's down there in Florida, give me them Florida Gators.
Ooh. All right, next game, Shane. Thankfully, again, at home, because you're going to need the home crowd for Ole Miss comes to town. Jackson Dart, 3 years starting quarterback. I love the home field advantage of the Swamp, but I don't know how phased he'll be given his experience. You got all the weapons in the world down there in Oxford. Unfortunately, I just think this is a bad matchup of Ole Miss offense, Florida defense. I think Lane Kiffin and company will kind of have their way. So if you win this game, if you're Florida, it's got to be a shootout. Can you keep pace with them? I'm not saying you can't. But I think Lane Kiffin's going to look around that stadium, look around and be like, it'd be nice to be head coach here one day. You know what I mean? So I think the fans, when they see this team, they're going to be like, he can do this for Ole Miss. Imagine what he can do for us. So, again, I'm just kind of kidding. But give me Ole Miss here. And it's not because I don't think you can win this game. It's because I think Ole Miss is a national championship contender. I think they're that damn good. And I don't think Florida's quite there. So give me a loss there also, even though it is at home. I think Florida loses this one.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple of personal ties here, just between the head coaches and, stealing players and things like that. There's just a natural hatred for these two programs at this moment. And I'm right there with you, Mike. Ole Miss has got too much talent on offense. They got too much talent on defense. They're too deep. This is the best Ole Miss team. We just talked about it a couple of days ago, that this is the best Ole Miss team that's ever been assembled. So real quick, one of the things I love about this game, you got to think this scenario. You just won this huge rivalry against LSU. You're pumped up. You're excited. But there's a shot that Ole Miss just dropped a game to the Georgia Bulldogs. And just like we talked about with the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, there's that natural wind out of the sails. And you come in expecting to win. You should never go to the Swamp expecting to win. Trust me, I got 13 miles on my Fitbit here to prove why you should never do that. So if I were looking at a potential top 5 upset, this is one I've got my eyebrows raised to, but I just don't think the Florida Gators have the talent to go toe-to-toe, even with maybe Ole Miss not having an A game here. I try to be optimistic here, but that's a loss. No, I think there is a shot optimistically that Florida shocks the world and gets a big upset here.
Yeah, well, we only got one game left, Shane, and if Florida's as good as you just laid out, I mean, this could be for a playoff bid, legitimately. Going to Florida State, no clue how good they're going to be. They were pretty awesome last year. I'm sure they've hit the portal and all that. But, obviously a lot of bad blood in this series. Florida, though, historically has played very well in Tallahassee here. So I know they win a whole generation of players that have never lost in Tallahassee in this series. But, man, I just kind of think, I know Billy's selling this as his most experienced, most talented, but one thing that really struck me, Shane, when I was going through these depth charts and these players and ranking the position groups, we're thin. We're thin, brother. We're thin. Outside of I like the top line talent, but we're starting to see some slippage there, in my opinion. Just second string, third string, and all that. And this is the time of year when some of those players are going to be playing prominent roles for you due to injuries and things of that nature. So I hate to do it, Shade, but if this game was in the Swamp, I'd have it the other way. I'm going to go Florida State wins this one. This is a toss-up. But again, at the end of the day, if you're sitting here and you're telling the Florida Gator fan that they're going to go 8-4, the nation's toughest schedule, you're going to snap the Kentucky streak, You're going to own Tennessee. You're going to break Tennessee's heart again. You're going to whoop Miami's ass. You're going to beat A&M. You're going to upset LSU, snap that streak. That is a huge, huge, huge sign of progress and reason to believe in what Billy Napier's doing. And I would think the vast majority of fans, if you gave them that scenario, they would accept 8-4.
Yeah, I bet they would too. And Billy sticks around, and I think they can build off that. So
Right.
There's a video floating around right now, Mike, of Florida State's coach. What's his name? The gambler.
Norvell?
Yeah, the Norvell. he's doing some long snapping. Did you see that one?
No, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's floating around. He gets down and he does a perfect snap for a punter. And you know why that's important, Mike?
What?
Because they're going to need a lot of it when it comes to this football game. How can you beat Ole Miss and worry about Florida State, Mike? Florida State's garbage. Get that shit out of here. Give me a big win here. And I'm telling you, brother, it's not far-fetched for this to happen. Everybody wants to. Everybody wants to shit on them and say the Florida Gators don't belong here. Billy Napier, Sunbelt Billy's going to be out of here. We're going to just poach these players. Lane Kiffin's going to take his job. We're going to hear all this coming out. But,
Right.
brother, there's a real shot this year that the Florida Gators shock the world. And I think what they do, maybe at the end of the season, it's not a 9-3 or a 10-2 or something like that. But there's some games that we have already penciled in as losses that I think they surprise people and switch to win. So be careful. Don't sleep on them Florida Gators right here. And nobody's afraid of Florida State in that garbage league.
So at 10-2, I mean, we're talking lock for the college football playoff coach of
Without
the
a doubt.
year,
Yeah.
right? For
Yeah.
Billy Napier. Imagine being on the hottest seat in the country, arguably, and then being not only SEC, national coach of the year. What a damn turnaround that would be. I think you've got some drink visions in your head here. I mean, that's what he did last year.
I'm telling you, man, this is I was never high on the Florida Gators. I'm not. But there's something about them, man. It's like we're being force fed that Florida sucked this year, that they should not
Right.
be a good team. But how many times, as a Tennessee homer, there's been a lot of years that we've been told that this is a down year, that this is the year Tennessee's going to get them, and then you watch them walk away with a victory. So I don't know if there's a little what is that, Stockholm syndrome going on here, but it's kind of like I could see a scenario where the Florida Gators maybe goes 9-3, 8-4, like you said. I think that's a great season, but 9-3, we talked about a 9-3 Florida Gators should make the playoffs based on the schedule and how many top 25 teams that they'd have to face. So, I think if you could finish the season optimistically now, I want to put the little asterisk here. As I'm coming from a Florida fan, I think that deep down inside, you're saying, hey, man, this is an 8-win team, but don't be surprised if we don't catch a few of these guys off guard.
Yeah, I mean, you've caught me off guard
Huh?
with this promising hype for the Florida Gators.
It's
so,
with
I
your
love it.
colors in the background, your subliminal messaging, the cold beer, the 13-mile walk. This team's hurt me in years past, brother. So Florida is on the verge of either collapsing or becoming Florida Gators again. It feels like we're at a fork in the road.
Right.
And I hate to say it, brother, but we talked about the top 3 games, which we're going to get to here. It's that Miami. You start this, it's a domino. It's a domino effect. And I really do think that the way this schedule is, there's a real scenario that you start knocking down some of these early dominoes, getting that momentum, getting these young players more and more involved. And you're talking about being thin. But the one thing that I love about Billy Napier's teams is what he does get from these younger kids, especially toward the tail end of the season. So, I don't know. There's a real shot that the Gators shock the world here.
Right. So most important to win, we've already covered Miami number 1 far and away. Who did you have number 2?
Number 2, I had Texas A&M. Yeah.
I went a different direction, Shane. I went Kentucky, believe it or not, because it is a home game, because you've lost 3 in a row to them, because you're getting that gauntlet. I mean, Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, Florida State. You have got to have some positive momentum.
Yeah.
Coming in, and again, we both picked them to beat Tennessee, but what if they don't beat Tennessee? You know, if you lose to Tennessee and you find a way to drop to Kentucky, you're probably not going to win another damn game. You know what I mean? Like the downward spiral begins then.
Right.
So for me, Kentucky is so important for Florida this football season.
Well, the reason I got A&M up there is just because there are a few tosses that you talked about. That's what they are, toss games, you know, here.
Right.
People aren't considering Tennessee a toss. I'm not saying that as a homer. Florida fans know this. They're expecting Florida Gators to lose that game, Vegas included.
Right.
They're expecting them to lose Georgia. They're expecting them to lose Texas and LSU and Ole Miss and Florida State and all these games. But there are some true toss-up games here that just derail everything. And that's why I've got Miami number 1, A&M number 2. But I'm right there with you. That Kentucky game that's in the middle. Because for years past, it's always been, hey, that's a win. We don't have to worry about that one, but you now have to worry about it. And it being between Tennessee and Georgia, it's in a slippery spot, you know. So yeah. Where'd you have 3?
Everything you said is right, Shane. Texas A&M. So again, I'm splitting hairs here, but that's a critically important football game. You simply cannot lose it for all the reasons mentioned above. So yeah, I mean, it's wild though, Shane, because we said those 3. Other fans could have a different 3, and they're probably right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there are so many. Go back to the toss-ups. Half the damn schedule's a toss-up for the Florida Gators. That's what's going to make this season so intriguing. They could win them all. They could lose them all. Realistically, they're probably going to split them. But it's trying to identify which ones they're going to split to make or break Billy Napier's era down there in Gainesville, and I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, all right, I've still got the homer hat on, so I guess I can't either, man.
All right, buddy. Well, hey, that's going to do it for this episode. Appreciate each and every one of you for hanging out. If you made it this far, like, subscribe, share the podcast. We don't ask for much, but we do ask for that. So that's all we got, buddy. Thanks as always for showing up. We'll catch you on the next one.
Go Gators!
Oh!